Hello everybody, hi, welcome to Old Style Classics Baseball Cards. There you go, Cardboard Nerd. Alright, this is Rob at Old Style Classics Baseball Cards, and it's Monday night, February 19, 2024. Beat, hardly got any sleep the last 2 nights, had a long day at work today. Oh boy, so I'm super tired, but I figured I'd do a special episode that's like a shorter version of me showing my pre-war stuff. So let's get to it on Old Style Classics baseball cards, because we had 3 pre-war pickups this weekend. So let's put the old style there since we're looking at some old style cards. Alright, so let's get to it, folks. Alright, so yesterday, we'll start off there. Picked up this Obak. Alright, not coming in very clear. Alright, there we go. Jesse Stovall. Now, at the end of the video, I kept calling him James, but he's Jesse Stovall. Spelled with 2 L's, but they misspelled it here. So that's a 1909 T212 T212 Obak, Pacific Coast League for the Vernon Tigers. You can go back and watch that video, and talked about how I love Obak cards, but I'll get back to this card in a few minutes. Picked that up at Lefty's Sports Collectibles up there in Burlingame, California, about 30 miles towards San Francisco on the peninsula. They had some other ones. I picked this one up because of that back, and this one presents really well. It's got some, some creases in there and some fading and all that, but look at how well centered that card is. And I'm a big fan of the Obak Old English style back. This is my first original Obak card, and because I like the Tristar Obaks is why I've always wanted to get one of these, and that's why we'll get back to this card in a little bit. So I'm going to set that aside. And then the day before, picked up at Stevens Creek Sports Cards. These next 2 cards are the first SGCs I ever picked up. That's the other thing I kept saying. Oh, SGC, when I was talking about the Aaron Judge and Andre Dawson cards that I have, I meant PSA. These are the first SGC cards I have, and this is Tex Covington for the Detroit Americans, or the Tigers. And then I believe, so that is a 1912 Recruit Little Cigars T207 brown background, which I love. That's probably one of the prettiest cards I've ever seen. The guy who owned the Vernon Tigers, I guess, owned the Detroit Tigers. And the Vernon went on to be San Francisco Missions. And then they went back to LA, and then they became the Hollywood Stars. Fatty Arbuckle bought the team, later sold them, but then they were the Hollywood Stars for a while. So they're a pretty popular PCL team until the Giants and Dodgers moved west and kind of ended the old sort of major league aspirations of the PCL. And then it became AAA, basically. But anyways, that was the card I picked up on, I believe, Saturday. Stevens Creek Sports Cards. You can watch one of the last videos. So I did one the Epic 1912 T202 Frank Chance, McIntyre, James Archer in this card video. And then also on yesterday's T212 Obak Jesse Stovall video that I did. Alright, hang on just a second, folks. Alright, thanks, I'm back. So anyways, that is a Recruit Little Cigars, Tex Covington, Detroit Tigers. As you can see, the year there being a 1912. He played with Ty Cobb. So Ty Cobb being my favorite dead ball era player. Probably my favorite player from the past, non-Cub. So those are just beautiful cards. I love those. Same company that did T206, American Tobacco Company, and I like these better than the T206s. So that was epic. I had to have one of those. Those brown backgrounds, they're just beautiful. And this card presents really well. It's just a beautiful card. Alright, and then the same Stevens Creek Sports cards. I also picked up this SGC 2.5. Well, that was a 2, and the Obak was a 1 with a stamp on the back mark. But anyways, this is triple folder Hassan cigarettes. Same thing, American Tobacco. And that's a Cubs card. So that's got Frank Chance beating out and out. And then Harry McIntyre and James Archer there. A couple Cubs from back in the day when they wore the uniforms that have the same logo as my old style classics Cub C with the little bear in it. That's my favorite logo for the Cubbies. And I've always liked these triple folder cards. Of course, I'd like to get the one with Ty Cobb sliding in. That'd be epic, but those are beautiful. I love tobacco cards, tobacco minis. And this is the Hassan. So I'll give you a chance to pause that and read those if you'd like. Alright. So, picked up those 2 cards. Went up to lefties. So let's see, when did I go there? Let's see, we went Saturday. I went and picked these up. Oh, and then we went up to lefties, and I bought some oddball stuff, which I'm going to do another video later. And then when I was rewatching the video of my LCS visit, I noticed the Obak card. And then we just happened to go back up there to eat the next day, and that's when I went and picked up the Obak. There you go, that's an SGC 1912 T202 Hassan cigarettes, number 17, Chance beats out a hit. McIntyre and Archer. So that was an epic pre-war weekend for me, folks. So right in line with that, we'll just keep going down the line. So I guess since we did a 1912 T207, so I guess we should go back and do, this would be a 1910 T206 Doc Adkins. I think I said Watkins in the last video, but there's my Doc Adkins first tobacco card I ever got. A baseball player was this one. And that was Baltimore was still a minor league team at the same time. And so I guess this is my first Major League Baseball player tobacco mini, along with the Hassan card. But Baltimore was a minor league team at the time. Picked this one up 6-7 months ago at the San Jose card show. It's in pretty rough shape, but I think it's cool. It's a nice looking card. Baltimore might be a little difficult to get, but still, nevertheless, that's pretty sweet. And as you can imagine, the 1909 Obaks, very similar. So I don't know if there's any relation between the tobacco companies that made these, one being on the East Coast and the other on the West Coast. But as you can see, they're very similar. And the Obak back and the Piedmont, so they're both beautiful cards. you know, they're in rough shape. That's fine. I just wanted to have one. So I was able to pick this up at that card show for like 30 bucks, I think. And obviously I'd prefer not graded, but so I get to feel that card, but I really dig that. So I'm happy to have that in my collection. This was my first T206. And as I said, I like this set better. I just think they look better. But it's nice to have a T206 in one's collection. No matter how rough a shape that's in, I was glad to pick that one up. And get away from tobacco for a minute because this is at the same time as the T206 and the Obak and the 207 and the Hassan. Around the same time, I believe this is like 1910. Colgan's chip. Violet chips or mint chips. Stars of the Diamond Colgan disc. And that is a birch for the Brooklyn team. I don't know if it was the Robins or the Excelsiors or something at the time. They weren't the Dodgers yet. But I was always loved these Colgan's discs. So I needed to pick me one of these up. And I picked that one off of eBay for a pretty good deal. So Major League Baseball player there. So these would all be about the same time frame here. You know. So it's just funny how different oddball cards, which weren't even oddball at the time, that's just how cards were. But you started to get them out of other products other than tobacco here with the chewing gum. Thin stock, not like newspaper thin, but pretty thin. That's a little rough, but who cares? I mean, I'm super happy to have that. Of course, I'd like a Thai Cobb. But that's just spectacular. My first Colgan chip. So for me, it's more about owning one of these cards. You know, and then someday in the future, maybe I can come across something like a Thai Cobb, like a caramel, or something like that. And one of my next things that I want to check off the list, since I picked these cards up recently, is a Cracker Jack card. Base, 1914 Cracker Jack baseball player, caramel card baseball player, and then of course a baseball player from this next set, which is an original 1887, I believe it's N28 Allen and Ginter's. So where baseball cards basically started, other than, some of those Cincinnati things that were from before, but like mass produced. But this is W.M. Muldoon wrestler card, 1887 Allen and Ginter, and that's where the first 10 baseball cards came out as part of this set of world champions. So I've said it before, if you're not a fan of Allen and Ginter's by Topps, might be because you don't understand the original set. It's the world champions, not baseball. So it's just different people of interest, like the wrestlers here, which is this card here, W.M. Muldoon. And there's a list of baseball players. So of course I'd like a Camp Anson, but any baseball players like next on my list, because Allen and Ginter's is my favorite set of cards. And I love the originals, and that's kind of where it started, along with like Goodwin Champions or whatever. But these cards are super thick, really thick, and they are also a little bigger. It's about the same size. I don't know. It's a little taller, as you can see there. Match those up, and you can see how different that is. So this card would not fit into a one-touch mini, so had to put it in a tobacco sleeve and put it into one of these one-touches here. So basically that's where your trading cards, baseball cards kind of started as far as I know. And then I also picked up at the San Jose card show a couple of these English Ogden cigarettes cards, and this is same time 1909, so same as that T206, right around there, the Colgan disc, this Obak card. So this is like a professional wrestler. The first wrestler from Allen Ginter was like a real like competitive wrestler, like Olympic style, Greco-Roman, I guess. These guys, I believe, were like professional wrestlers. And that's Joe Rogers, and even though it's the same age as those other cards, much better condition, because I don't think the English were told to glue these into things. So that's a beautiful card. I picked this one up as well at San Jose card show. Same time I got the T206. So I guess I'll put those together real quick. Pick these up the same day. Those are the same age people. Look at how much better the English cards have held up. And so he's another, I believe, professional wrestler from the time, which was a huge thing back then. So Peter Manghin, Ogden's there, Imperial Tobacco Company, Britain and Ireland. So those are cool cards, very Allen Ginter-esque. And then in Albuquerque, I saw another Ogden's card at one of those card shops, and I picked this up, and this is a boxer, pugilist, Jack Twin Sullivan, so Jack Sullivan. So he's a boxer, and that's like the next year, so I think this is 1910, because you can see that is the second series card, and then of course the first series doesn't. It just says a series of 50, and this is the second series, so that's a year later. Similar fonts and all that kind of stuff, but a little different back there. But beautiful cards. You can see kind of the croppings a little different than the next year. So those are my tobacco, or I guess I shouldn't call it that. Most of them are tobacco except for the Colgan's disc. Right? So pre-war. Those are my pre-war cards. Now, to get back to this Obak card that I'm a huge fan of and needed to go back and pick one up because I've always wanted an Obak. And that's because when Tristar put them Obak cards out in 2009, 2010, they did baseball and then they did football, and I don't know if they did anything else. But I just loved those cards, and yesterday I talked about, I don't have an Andre Dawson mini. I don't even know if there's a mini Andre Dawson. I do have his full-size Obaks, but I'm not going to show those because I'm kind of sticking with the pre-war theme here. And so I loved Allen & Ginter's already by 2000, and I loved original Allen & Ginter's, of course, but I love Topps Allen & Ginter's since 2006, and then 2009 when like Goodwin Champions from Upper Deck came out, and Obak. And I remember seeing Obak at Walmart up there in Eubank in Albuquerque and picking up some blasters. And then when I moved to California, the Stevens Creek sports cards, and maybe Sunnyvale had a, like maybe 10 blasters at each store, and I ended up buying almost all of those. So I got a lot of repeat stuff and all that. But I just love the Obaks. And the first year, 2009, matches the 1909, the way they did the back. And then the 2010 matches the 1910 with a different back. But I prefer this old English back compared to the 1910 one. That's why I went with this card. So, and then I talked about Joe Bauman as he was a minor league star, played in the West Texas, New Mexico League, and bounced around, played minor league ball for think in Oklahoma or something like that, because one of the major league teams was going to bring him up, but he didn't like it. He wanted to go back, went back to Roswell, played, owned a gas station and all that, and just where his life was, and didn't. He was after like the war and didn't want to, be doing the whole major league thing when he was married and all that stuff. But anyway, so Joe Bauman and me growing up in New Mexico, this guy owned the professional baseball home run record for America, having 72 home runs back in the 50s. And if you go back and watch the last video, I talk more about that in the book that I got signed by the author, and she sent me the picture of this guy that she used in the book. But there's the Joe Bauman Tristar Obak card, so you can see that old English. So this guy had 72 home runs until Barry Bonds had to go in not only knock off McGwire's record, but wanted to beat his record of 72. And so that's why Bonds went up to 73. That's why it was so important for him to reach 73, because he wanted this guy's record as well. And it's the Bauman Award is named for him, the minors, for the minor leaguer who hits the most home runs every year. Like Jock Peterson won it, I know that, as an Albuquerque Isotope no less, but he set the record on the Roswell Rockets in Roswell, New Mexico. And so of course it has not the exact same back, but it's in that style. And then they use the numbering up here by this little thing here, and short prints have either like circles or squares around the number, or they'll be numbered down here. So it's neat that Joe Bauman doesn't really even have any other cards, because it was like, low ball, like low minor league level. But you can read about this here, so it does talk about his record there. So after serving in the military from 43 through 45, Joe joined the Amarillo Gold Sox at 46 and hit a league-leading 48 home runs in 1954 while playing for the Roswell of the Longhorn League. Joe connected for what is still a minor league record of 72 home runs in a season. So he owned the record until Bonds beat that. So that's Joe Bauman. You should go read about him. He's really a fascinating story. So that's because I really like this first set of TriStar ones, is why I really have my eyes peeled for original Obak for so long. Now, I also picked up his other variation of that Obak mini Joe Bauman. They come in full-size cards too, and they look pretty good. They got like prospect of Buster Posey and Giancarlo Stanton, and I think one of the early Trout cards, one of the Obak sets. They do football too, but this one is the greenback, and as you can see down there, it's 22 of 25. Same information otherwise. So they have like the old school back color, like a blue, and then the green one were numbered to 25. And so that's awesome. That's, of course, like the background's not exactly the same as these are more T206-ish, but still, those are pretty sweet cards. So there you have it, folks. I'm just going to go ahead and like I said, I'm just going to, other than these cards and that Dawson Sandberg, which is a challenge for me to put that in every video this month. But I wanted to show these to where I got my inspiration for that. And, let's take one more look here. So, Ogden's 1908, actually 1908. 1908. I think 1909 or 1910. So those are some English ones. T206. That's a 1910. Colgan disc. The only non-tobacco one of those old ones. Birch for Brooklyn. And last but not least, but well, not last, but the last of the non-graded, WML Dune, N28, I believe, 1887, Allen and Ginter, tobacco, cigarette cards. All right. T202, Hassan cigarette triple folder. Chance beats out a hit. James P. Archer and Harry McIntyre. As you can see, 1912. And the other, and I think the best looking of the lot, is the 1912. And I mean best looking card. I'm not talking about condition. That's a really nice condition. But the best looking triple folder gives it a little run, but that is just, it's like the Gypsy Queen to Allen and Ginter. You know, it's got color. You know, that brown background is really epic. That old school look to his uniform. The Allen and Ginters are also just some of the most beautiful cards ever. Now, that's not a baseball player, so that makes it a little difficult, but Allen and Ginter's is probably the most beautiful card set. But as far as those 1900s pre-war cards, I'll take that over any of them T206s. I mean, you have to get to like Cracker Jack before you really have like competition, and all those other cards are great looking. I mean, T206 is wonderful. A lot of people love T205. The Obak's really nice, but there's just something about that background that just screams classy, old school. It just kind of has that old library, you know, leather book, old baseball glove kind of something ambiance or something about it. It just gives that old school feel there. So if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing, liking, leaving some comments, getting some comments from people. I'll do shout outs on the next video. But if you could subscribe and like, that way these can be pushed out to more people who like this kind of stuff, or even this kind of stuff, which is kind of stuff I like. Old style classics baseball cards, and they don't just have to be old, they can be classic design, basically, like these here. And but wow, just blown away. These two just blow me away. And I mean, that triple folder is awesome as well. I can't wait to get hold of an Allen and Ginter one. Baseball, Cracker Jack, caramel. Hey, thanks for watching. There's my I guess shorter version of a highlight video, but at least I was showing cards this time, people. Thanks for watching old style classics baseball cards, and I'll come back and do some oddball stuff. Thanks.